Should we divide the nation up according to values and ideologies? Hello everybody, Sister Danger here. It is 3:07 in the morning and I am just now getting to the point of doing my Tuesday breakfast club. So I'm sure you can imagine how busy my week has been thus far. This week we have a topic brought forth by Brock, and the topic is dividing up the United States based on values. Brock talks about a lot of really interesting things in his video, but if I were to elaborate on them, I would, have a 30-minute video. And so I'm just going to try to skip straight to that question. What do we think about carving up the nation geographically according to value sets and letting people move wherever they want? Carve it all up and you can move to the area that you think best suits your values. I think that this idea is, one, way too complicated to practically occur. So the notion that people would choose to live based on their social values has a bunch of implications that have to pre-exist. It implies basically that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, are covered and accounted for no matter where they go. That currently isn't really the case, and it's not something that I would anticipate is going to happen. We know for a fact that if the United States were divided up into all of these, little countries or whatever, that we would still have to work with other areas of the country in order to be able to provide basic services, public utilities. Some places in the country make all of our food. They're the breadbasket, right? And some places in the country import water literally from other states. So I don't know that all of these places could be contained and sovereign such that they can provide everything at an approximately equal level for their proposed citizenry. And without that, then basically what you're going to have are some areas. I mean, what happens if your values get assigned to an economically depressed area that doesn't have the ability to provide, for anything other than a low standard of living for you and your family, right? People are going to bend their personal values in favor of a larger idea, say providing something more for their children in the future. And the reason that I say that people will do that is because I think that people actually do that every single day, that we are always compromising. Brock puts forth this thought experiment as a possible solution to the problem of identity politics. As he sees it, we don't have the same sets of values. We don't have the same desires. Well, I disagree with that, to an extent. I think that people ultimately do have the same basic desires. They desire security. They desire to be comfortable. They desire to be provided for, or to be able to provide for themselves and their families, right? And then add in a dash of perceived room for growth and keep people entertained so that they're not bored, and you will have complacent herds forever. I just don't think that you can galvanize huge swaths of the populace to sacrifice their security and comfortability for the possibility of ultimate riches. What's interesting to me is that the problem that Brock perceives being identity politics, basically, I think identity politics is the solution, not the problem. And I think that it is being fine-tuned towards a global recipe. The only struggle that I perceive as a real struggle, not a fabricated one or one that, as Brock says, has been purposefully reinserted or incited, with which I do happen to agree, actually. Where I disagree with him is that I think that the real struggle is, in fact, a class struggle that exists. We are having a war right now with our super elites and everyone else. I do think that there is a push, though, to find these parameters in which the vast majority of the global population can be generally contained and complacent, moving ever more towards, less war and less fighting, because ultimately those things work out economically quite poorly for people in the long run, right? A few people may profit off of it in the short term, but we know, generally speaking, that things like war are pretty much bad results for everybody. I think that our super elite, the people who do control the industry of the globe, are basically fine-tuning this recipe in which everybody else can exist. We can exist in relatively happy lives, and as long as we are entertained and whatnot, then we'll just continue to chug along, and that affords this small segment of society that, to my mind, is really what moves. 1% of the population is what moves the rest of the globe. These are the people that are the innovators and inventors. There are super intellectual elites. They are the people with billions and billions of dollars. I think that identity politics, look at what identity politics does. It moves people away from intellectualism and towards emotional behavior. That means that just by manipulating emotional content that people are exposed to, you can basically kind of steer the herd. It's instituting the unquestionability of those identity politics, which is perilously similar to religion. And then we've got entertainment TV that sort of doubles as our news and information outlets and sources, right? So people are entertained, they have everything they need, and as long as they can, their behavior can be sort of herded within these parameters, which I think are still being worked out, it'll be that. That's where we're going. That is the solution. We are living in the solution. It's not the problem. Society will just continue to chug along comfortably numb. One of the more interesting things that Brock brought up was that he was talking about the equality of outcome versus the equality of opportunity. The equality of outcome, I agree with him. This is not a possible thing without radical amounts of social engineering and things like eugenics, right? So, but when we accept the idea of the equality of opportunity, what that means is that we're going to have an inequality of outcome. And that means that there are going to be social strata. We are not equal people. We may value human life, each individual's life equally, but we don't have equal intelligences, we don't have equal abilities and talents and skills, and we never will. So with that in mind, that's obviously going to make layers of society. The interesting thing about this is that how do you keep layers of society from basically devouring one another? And that is the issue. How do you make or keep people complacent with inequality? And I think that right now we are going through a period where identity politics is one of the ways that they are doing that. It's working. Speaking again to the matter at hand, I just don't think that it makes very much sense to divide the nation up based on ideologies. I think that ideologies are a luxury that we afford ourselves by providing more basic needs, and that if those basic needs were to go away, that nobody's going to be concerned about where they're going to move based on the ideology that they believe in. And with regards to the suggestion that, what do we do about these problems of differences in ideologies and values and whatnot, I think that those problems are in fact the purposefully engineered solution. They basically keep people comfortable, distracted, and still working and still producing. Have a good morning, everybody. Nathan Brendan Masters will be up next, and I will see you all next week.